Ice Qweendom is the anime spin-off of RWBY, and it is probably what divides the fandom like crazy. However, I am here today to review a specific aspect of the show. Today, I will be breaking down all the fights in Ice Qweendom, and to start, the lowest fight a fight can get is 1/4 points, and the highest a fight can go is 1.75. The average fight is just about a 1. Just so you know, there's a playlist that you can access that will give a better description of what I am doing today. If you would like, I would also like to thank Twins Inc. for the idea. And now, with the exposition out of the way, let's get into these fights, starting with Weiss versus the Armored Geist. 3.25 points. Looks really good, but could be more extensive. And it is interrupted by Blake and Adam ruining the flow of everything. Blake and Adam versus the Training Bots. 0.5 point. It's not very appealing. They remove a lot of the choreography, and Adam doesn't really have much potency or power portrayed in the scene. RWBY versus the Robbers. Stunning animation, keeps up the same energy and flow as Volume 1. Beowulfs versus Ruby and Weiss. 0.5 point. Looks nice, but is very short, much like the summary. Number 5. Nevermore, Deathstalker versus Team RWBY and Team Juniper. 3.25 points. Or no, sorry. 0.75 point. It is not as well choreographed as the original, and we lose out on some good moments, but things like turning Pyrrha's javelin into a nail are really cool, and the scene where the Nevermore gets its head removed is super impactful and visually stunning. Weiss versus the Borbatesk. I think 0.75 point. I actually like this fight though, more than the original. Both are short, but the one in Ice Qweendom I feel has a greater feeling of impact when she deals the final blow to the Borbatusk's belly. Pyrrha, Nora, and Ren versus Nightmare. 0.25 point. It's good in the story department and gives us some insight into John. Apart from that, visuals are not that great, and it's not that great of a fight, actually. Dream White Fang versus Dream Atlesian Knights. 0.5 point. There's a certain level of primal aggression in the fight, which helps show Weiss's more narrow-minded views, to say the least. Anyway, number 9, RWBY versus Negative Weiss. 1 point. It's a good showcase of power at showing the obstacles that our heroes are gonna have to overcome this show, and it turns out pretty well. All right, Blake, RWBY, and Yang versus Negative Weiss and Grumpy Klein. 0.25 point. We get to see Weiss's power again, how this time we get a better look at her arsenal, and it furthers home the point that unless the entire team is trying to fight a nightmare-infused person, they will lose. Now that was number 10, so let's take a little break. And guess what? We're halfway through all the fights in the volume. So, if you would like to help out in my insanity, please subscribe. And without further ado, we're getting back into this grind. Blake, RWBY, and Yang versus Negative Weiss again. After the third time, it does become a little stale. However, it does show it does show their end goal, and having it reset kind of makes you feel defeated, just like the main cast. So there's that nice little overlap. All right, RWBY, Blake, and Yang and John versus Dream White Fang. 0.25 point. Well, literally just a fight. It's bare bones, not well choreographed, and it is just there. John and Dream actors, so Dream, Nora, Pyrrha, Ren, versus Dreamscape Robots. 0.25 point. It's necessary for the story of the show, but not that great. Weiss versus Dreamscape and Dreamscape actors. 0.5 point. Pretty much the same thing, just an Attack on Titan reference. Blake and Yang versus Nicholas. Half a point. It is okay. It doesn't really affect anything, and it looks relatively cool. Ruby and Blake versus Nightmare and Negative Weiss. A sound and swift defeat. On top of that, the little cliffhangers and pop-ups are popping questions into your mind to be used to better effect later. The battle for Weiss dreamscaped. 3/4 of a point. It's overall an improvement. The thing that pushes it into being good is Nicholas versus Yang, with some stunning animation, and the final shot to the head of the robot is very impactful, and ends in a stage where we can get into the true climax of the show. RWBY versus the Nightmare. 1 point. It is short. I feel like the use of the silver eyes, I wanted to see them in Ice Queendom. I didn't know how they were going to be translated, and I didn't know how they were going to get around the fact that this is a prequel to Volume 2, so her using it would be very weird. She used it in a dream, and her eyes were covered, so I thought it was a cool way of letting her do the special cool power without revealing it to her before Volume 3, and I just think that was a beautiful touch. Team RWBY versus Negative Blake. 1 point and half an extra point. This is my favorite fight in the entire show. And when I say show, I mean Ice Queendom. I'm getting that out of the way now. It is fast-paced, well choreographed, visually stunning, consistent, decisive. Every single thing you want from a good anime fight is in this. Everything is impactful and fluid. It makes use of every single character and never feels like a single character in the background is doing absolutely nothing. They are forefront and center, almost always. There is only one thing holding it back from getting the highest score as possible, and that is that there are no ending silhouettes. It is a petty issue, but I feel like it would have been better if they devoted more resources to the final attack. Anyway, moving on. Food fight. It is 1 point and 1/4 of a point additional. It serves a different purpose, though, than the original. In the original, it was meant to show how much the team had improved since its second season. Here, it is to show that they have all overcome the craziness that went down, and this fight is far more laid back, but still provides a crazy amount of energy, and still being well animated. However, simply put, it's not a fight that's meant to be hyped up. It's supposed to instill a feeling of warmth and accomplishment that you have finished this long journey, just like the characters, which is exactly why I think that it was a great idea for it to end at the food fight and just at the beginning of Volume 2. Anyway, "20 fights, 13.5 points, 67%. This places it above Volume 4 but under Volume 7. Why? This is well because of certain fights carrying the volume hard. And since there's the most amount of fights in this entire volume, just to be frank, there are more fights in this volume of RWBY by nearly double of some of the others. It means the worse off fights affect it less and have less of a negative impact. Whereas something like Volume 4 or 9 with a respective 7 means that if you have one bad fight, it negatively impacts the whole show. However, if you have been paying attention, you will notice that most of the fights are not what should be the standard of the show. However, there are a notable amount of fights that go above and beyond, and I believe that due to how gorgeous some of them are, and I believe that is truly saved from being a total disappointment. But as you can probably guess, this is nowhere near the best volume. And if you would like to see what I believe is the best volume of RWBY and the best volume for RWBY fights, I want you to click on some of the links in front of you and tell me what your favorite fight in Ice Queendom was. But after you do all that, click off the video and have a great day. I'm signing out, folks. See you later.